Hey everybody, this is Coach Keith Kepner. We're going to go over Boxing Ring Strategy 101. All the basic stuff that you need to know or be reminded of, or maybe things you haven't thought about. So this video is going to be done in a fashion that it can be just listened to, almost like podcast form, while you're driving, while you're doing something else. But also, I'm going to provide visual representations to help you better understand the ideas and concepts, because we are sometimes only so able through words alone to describe different concepts and things like that, particularly with a sport like boxing. But we need to think tactically about the playing area, the field, as it were, the ring, where we're going to be doing our battle. And I'm going to break down the highest leveraged concepts that you can use, take today into your training and into your sparring and into your fights, and actually see an immediate benefit from it. So the first one is the idea, the concept of the dominant position. We're going to go over that, how that is kept, how you establish it, and everything else that goes along with it. The geometry of corners, right? Because we're in a square, we need to understand the corners of that square and also how to turn the square into other shapes as well. We're going to go over that. And then last one is slicing and dicing. Further slicing up that ring into different shapes to our advantage. All right. Now, make sure you stick around to the end, because there's going to be some very important concepts and nuances to all of these three concepts we're going to talk about that you want to make sure you know and you don't miss out on. All right. Now, but before we start, make sure you click like, subscribe. Most people that watch this are not subscribed, so it's a great way to support the channel. And also comment below your thoughts, your takeaways, and different things that you have found work as well, and also your success stories with using these concepts. Also, last thing, great way to support the channel, buy me a cup of coffee, guys, with a super thanks. You go down to the bottom of the video, scroll over a little bit if you're on a phone, you see that heart with the dollar sign. I've had people drop $5, $10, even as much as $20. Buy me a cup of coffee. Really helps support the channel. Coach Keith needs coffee. And if you want me to do more videos like this, it will definitely help, gang. All right, now let's dive in. The dominant position. So with the game of chess, you have the idea of dominant positions for certain pieces. And since the horse is the most mobile piece in chess, it has besides the queen, rather, it has the most ways or distances it can travel, right? Because it's fast. And the same thing with you as a boxer. And obviously, if a knight is going to be in a more central position, it has more options. If it's up against the corners or up against the side of the board, it has less options, so less control of the ring. We can take that same exact concept and apply that to our boxing ring. All right, so here you are, the red. Throughout this entire video, you're going to be demonstrated by red. So visually in your mind, doesn't matter what color it is if you're listening just to the audio. But you have that dominant position in the center of the ring, right dead in the center. All right. Now that is going to be encompassed by a circle, which is your range, right? Because obviously, if someone doesn't get close enough to you, you can't do anything to them, but you're going to hold that center, and you can operate a little bit to the right or the left, or backwards and forwards within that center. But you want to imagine a circle that's in the middle of that ring, and let's say it's about maybe 5 feet by 5 feet, that you're going to own and dominate. I've seen gyms even put a circle in the middle of the ring to help them understand this concept and to focus on it. Now, with that more dominant position, you have the most variety of options, obviously, right? Because you can attack if you wish, or move in any direction you want across the whole ring. Everything, the world is your oyster in that middle center scenario. And even if you're slightly on the edges of that circle that's in the middle, you still have the most available options for offense and defense. And also, to be clear, as we go through this video, I'm starting off first with almost more defensively being mindful of our feet, because obviously if we're not close to the person, they can't hit us, and you need to have that protection. Just like when you get in a car, I talk about the seatbelt with the chin down, but also the seatbelt with having that protection going into the ring. Oftentimes with fighters, I see people get trained in a manner that it's like, okay, we're going to teach you how to drive a car, but we're not going to teach you how to put on the seatbelt first, right? Basic safety precautions. So you need to know how to defend and also how to move and avoid those death traps or those landmines that can be in the ring. And if you don't know how to avoid them, if you don't know where they are, I see it all the time. Guys will go right into a landmine and get blown up. Obviously, if you're not in the center of the ring, you're outside of that, let's say 5x5, 4x4 circle, then you're going to be limiting the options and you're in a weak position because now you don't have the backwards in many different directions and you really only have maybe the lateral, and you could assume charging forward, but you are limited. And that's where obviously for yourself, if you're attacking, know that if you can get someone to maneuver them up to the ropes, you have the most options with your punches. That's when you can really let your combinations go, unless they're just really flat-footed and locked down on the ring and they don't move much. But even if they are a mover, you get them up the ropes, you're going to take some of their movement options, and that's going to be advantageous for you, allow you to get off more punches. But then, of course, for yourself, you are in a less advantageous position. Now, how do we keep the dominant position, though? Because I've been asked this question when I work on people, help people understand this concept and discuss it. The next question comes up: well, how do I keep it, right? Because it's really funny too, because you'll do some ring work with someone and they'll oftentimes just completely go to that weak position automatically. And it's an important thing to identify in your training when you're shadowboxing, sparring, but even doing mitt work and stuff like that. Work on keeping that dominant position, unless there's some other special nuance to that. But that dominant position is key, and getting in the habit of establishing that and keeping that really that higher ground in the ring is so important. But how do we keep it, right? Besides obviously just staying there. Now, if someone tries to push you off that hill, so imagine a hill in the middle of the ring, someone tries to push you off that center hill, and they manage to actually physically get you off the hill, all you have to do is just circle back.
Circle back.
Right? Circle back around. So they push you off that hill, you give that resistance, but you do it at a curve. And we'll talk about that more as we go, about the importance of curves in the ring versus straight lines, particularly going back. So you just curve yourself back around to end up right back on the hill, the top of the hill, right? Imagine someone kind of pushing you off a hill, and their momentum of pushing you off the hill makes them fall off the hill a little bit themselves. You let them push you off the hill, but then you're circling back around to just come up right behind them, right back on the center of the hill. And demonstrated here with animation, someone pushes you off that center line, they come after you a little bit, you circle back around. So now you have regained the high ground in the ring. Now, let's talk about the geometry of corners. All right, real basic stuff, but to understand the nuance and understand really just how this geography is laid out is so important. So you're in that corner, let's say, and you're smack dab right in it. Now, you can't go back, right? Obviously, if you know you're on the ropes, you're in the corner, you can't go back. And you can't go directly laterally to your right or to your left because there's ropes there. So you can go off to the side, but you have to go forward a little bit as you do it. And the challenge with this is if you have your opponent in front of you and you're trying to avoid their range, you are now taking a little bit of a dangerous journey, because the safest place you can be if you're trying to not get hit in that moment. Again, we're thinking defensive first. We're going to later in this video talk about the offensive strategies. Then you're getting closer to them, we're able to get hit by punches. So automatically in that corner, in order to try to exit a corner, you are going to be taking some form of risk. As opposed to if you're on the ropes and you have the range of your opponent, you're able to go to the left or to the right and not get any closer to them. If anything, you might be able to lose them if they're not very good at cutting down the ring. And then as well, you also could go into the firing lane a little bit to get out, just like you're in a corner. So you again just automatically have double the options as you do in that initial position in the corner. And then of course, if you're in the center of the ring, in that high ground, you can go left to right, you can go a little bit of danger to exit around, or you can go back in many different fashions. Now, what are ways we can avoid the corners? Let's talk about 3 tactics that are going to be the most useful to just avoid them and be successful. I see it all the time. Guys will go. Great example too is that first Tyson Fury Usyk fight where Tyson was going corner to corner a lot, but I see a lot of times with lower level guys when they have someone pressuring them, they'll just kind of hit the corner and then maybe they'll manage to get out of the corner and they'll just go right to another corner. And so it's really funny how the square shape of the ring just will lead people into corners if they don't watch it, and also if they're going against a good fighter who knows how to lead them into corners. But here's 3 tactics to avoid, all right? So the first tactic, you're going straight back in that corner. Don't go straight back in that corner. The best thing you can do as a boxer is to focus on not taking more than 1 or 2 steps straight back. Obviously, if you're trying to avoid somebody, it's easy to rush straight back with multiple steps to get as far away as possible. But the challenge is that will lead you right to a corner, particularly as you're approaching a corner or if they're trying to steer you into a corner. So the first tactic for not going into corners is don't go into corners. No, we don't go there. Just make it a thing. Whenever you spar, anything else, don't go in the corner. And you can control it. You can control it with these other tactics, all right? But that's the first rule. Just don't make it a habit. I see guys make a habit of going into corners. No. All right. The second one is to take the square shape of the ring and to turn it into a circle, all right? And this is how we're able to avoid corners, right? So again, think about going straight back. Now we're going to run ourselves straight into a corner or onto the ropes and then perhaps get ran into a corner. But if we maintain a circular movement pattern when someone tries to attack us, or just have circular movement whenever we're a little bit more defensively minded and trying to avoid, we will, by that very nature, avoid corners, right? So you have that square and you have a circle on the outer part of the ring, or the widest part of the ring you can before you start hitting the ropes, and you just maintain that circle, which automatically, if you keep that circle shape, you are going to be far from the corner while still sometimes getting close to the rope, but you're getting close to the rope in the places where you have the most opportunities to move if you are going to be close to the rope, right? Obviously, the closer we get to the corner, we are going to get in a more precarious position. But if we happen to get close to the rope and that rope is in the center between the 2 corners, not close to one corner or the other corner, we are going to have the most options and be able to avoid. So you see the circle there? You got to make it a circle, and that's it. And that's going to be the key for success with avoiding corners. And then the last one is to walk them away. Now, also, I'm going to talk about one more later in the video, so make sure you stick around for that. But is if we're getting driven to a corner, let's say someone's cutting you off along the ropes, right? And you're trying to move to, let's say, your left, and they're staying with you, and eventually you're going to be running into a corner, you actually want to start moving away from that corner, even if they're slightly on that side of you, right? So imagine someone is pursuing you, and you're moving off to your left, and they're cutting you off, and they're maybe a step behind. So they're still slightly on your right side, your back is on the rope, and they're coming you, but they're steering you to that corner. You might want to actually go to them a little bit along those ropes, right? So further to your right. And then what that's going to do is steer them a little bit back away from that corner. Let's say we're getting too close to the corner. And then that extra space away from the corner will allow you to start making your circle again. And now you can be home free and get the whole landscape of the ring. And like I said, make sure you stick around for the end because I'm going to talk about another way to get out of the corner, but also the counter move, how to stop someone from doing it. Because it's important that we know how to do things, but also that we know how to stop them from being done so that we can dominate the ring and be king of the ring. All right. Now, the last one, let's talk about slicing and dicing. All right. So we have our ring, and I want you to imagine, if you're watching the video, you can see it, but imagine you have that square and you have a compass. You have north, south, east, and west. All right. So the top of the square is north, and then the left side is west, right side is east, and then the bottom is south. All right. So you have that ring. That is the map of the territory. So what you want to do, though, is you want to cut that territory so it's just the upper almost third of the northern part of the map, right? So you're slicing that sucker, that ring, you're not cutting the ring in half, you're slicing it so it's about a third of what it was. So you are there with your opponent. Now, how are you going to manage to do this? The way you do this is by facing north the whole time, right? So you just have to create that imaginary line in your mind in the ring that now the ring is a rectangle and everything to the south doesn't exist anymore because you want it to not exist to them anymore. And you are facing the northern rope of the ring with them in between you and the rope. And you're going to keep them on that rope, that northern rope, the whole time. Your stance and position is facing that direction like there's a mirror on that wall and you're trying to look at yourself in the mirror in your boxing stance. And then as they move around, you stick with them. No matter where they go, you're sticking with them. And then you eventually drive them, let's say, to the western rope. And so now they're up against the western rope and the northern rope. All right, so now they're in a corner, but they're situated in a position where you're not directly in front of them in that corner. You're off to the side, and they have the western rope right to their shoulder and the northern rope to their back. All right, now, this allows them only truly one exit, but I'm going to be generous and say you got two. Right, they can move to the east, or they can move kind of southeastern to get past you. But it's only two exits. And so this is brilliant because now we're eliminating options, putting them up against two walls. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Okay, well, so Coach Keith, isn't this just like the corner situation? Obviously, it's better than the rope situation where they have, if they're in the middle of the rope of the ring, they have four pathways as opposed to one or two. But in the corner, if you're straight on facing them into the corner, like you are boxing the ring post, and they're right sitting in that corner, they only have two options as well to go right or left. But what's brilliant about this is that in this scenario where you have made the ring basically a thin rectangle and their back is against the northern rope and their shoulder is against the western rope, or it could be the other side of this, they only have one exit to go. And that is a pretty favorable thing for you and pretty bad for them, because they only have one direction out. And if you have any ability and knowledge as a fighter, you know, okay, in this scenario that I have with them on the western rope and on the northern rope, you know they're going to be going to your right. So all you got to do is be ready to run them into some great right-hand punches, and you can take away those opportunities. If not, maybe hurt them or maybe get them out of there. Who knows? And you might be saying, oh, well, they might go under the shot. Something like that. Well, just dig the body. Be smart about it. Easy, easy, easy. Dig the body. Well, what if he blocks the body? Cool. You can still stop him in that corner, in that situation where now the ring has been cut down into essentially no longer a square. It's that long rectangle. You've completely eliminated the rest of it. And now they're going to start to panic. They're going to start to make mistakes. And that's where you want someone. You want someone panicking. You want to create concern and fear and the feeling like it's all over and it's done for. They don't know what to do. So they're going to panic and try to take the one exit out, and you're going to line them up with a great right-hand shot down for the body to either hit them or stabilize them to throw other punches and just keep them there. Keep them there. You only got to watch for one exit. That's great. If you have someone up against the ropes, you're having to watch for the right door and the left door, right? Which one is someone going to pop out of or pop through to try to escape? But if you know they're only going to go one way, hey, we're looking good. Now, wait, there is more. We're going to also slice up the ring in another way. We're going to slice it up like we do when we split up the ring for sparring. We have a lot of people sparring, like in-house sparring of our own team. We'll slice the ring up where we'll take a slip rope, waist height, and attach it from one corner to the opposite corner, right? So let's say from the neutral corner to the neutral corner. And that way, now we're slicing the ring into like a pyramid shape, right? A triangle. We can do that with our movement as well by, of course, navigating them to a corner. But again, having that visual concept of that now the ring has been cut into half of what it was, right? Sliced. So now it's a triangle, and there's no way out. And you just keep them, and you're facing that corner. Let's say it's your own corner, like there's a mirror there, and you're in your stance, always keeping that position. That allows you to drive them back into that corner if they do lateral movement. But again, just having that concept of you're not going to do any type of circling nonsense. You are purely just mirroring them into that corner. There is no more ring behind you at all. And really getting that idea of you are eliminating every single bit of the ring behind you. They got nowhere else to go. And then eventually the entire ring is yours. There's nothing left but destruction and apocalypse. And your opponent is again going to be in a very dire situation where they're going to panic, break down, or try to fight their heart out to get the hell out of there and to deal with it. But nevertheless, you have the advantage. Now, another way to get out of corners and what we can do about it, right? Like I promised before, I was going to talk about there's another way that, of course, you guys with boxing experience, you're saying, hey, Coach Keith, you're missing this one. Don't worry, we're going to talk about it. All right, so let's say you are in the corner, because again, I'm going to look at this first defensively. Like you got it in a bad spot. All right, because obviously whenever you're boxing, unless you are the best boxer, pound for pound in the world right now, you hopefully go against people that are better than you, especially in the gym, and they can put you in bad spots. Let's worry about getting out of those spots, being able to eliminate those landmines and therefore have more confidence in the ring and be better able to execute our game plan. All right, now, sometimes the only way out is through, right? Through them. Now, of course, you can run them into a punch, but I'm talking about the strategy of maneuvering around the map and understanding the geography of the ring. But the only way out sometimes is through. What does it mean? You mean push them? No, you can't push people. People get away with it, but you're not supposed to push people in boxing with your arms and, double arm push them back or anything like that. You step in, you smother in, and this allows you to then wrap an arm around them and spin them into that corner. And now they are in the corner, and you can either get the hell out of there, or now you've got them in a great position for yourself, right? Where that now they are where you were, and the tables have turned. All right. Now, it's really it is a strategy where you can lure somebody into a corner and then turn the tables on them. I've had guys do that and do it efficiently. Now, here's the question though. So I'm going to tell you the two things to do is how do you stop someone from doing that, right? So let's say the situation is the opposite, where now you got your guy in the corner, you're trying to keep him there, and he goes and he twirls you around, so now the tables have turned. Well, the moment he starts turning you on the side, right? Let's say you're facing him in the corner. He smothers down and he starts to maneuver around your right side. Let's say he grabs you with his left arm and starts to spin you. You just have to step into that side that he grabs you on, and you will shut it off. And you will drive him into that rope right there. It will be the northern rope in this scenario. And now he's stuck up against the rope and still with his back to the corner. And now you can just keep him there, right? Tries to steer you the other way. You step into the spin, right? Very important concept, stepping into the spin. Whatever side they try to grab you on, you're going to step into that side and spin. Now, there's a good way to spin and a bad way to spin. I'm not going to be able to talk about those things in this video. There's a goofy way to spin that's been going around. But if you're going to spin to your right side, and let's say you're the guy in the corner, you're going to grab with your right arm and step off to your right side to fling them into the corner, to swing them around into the corner so that their back is actually turned to you a little bit as well. Anyway, but let's say they're quick on you and they managed to get that position where they got out and they got past where you were able to shut down the spin like I just described. Now, all you have to do is use that multi-jab strategy I talked about earlier and bam, 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 drive them to the next corner all the way. So now they're back where they started, right? And again, now you're steering them corner to corner. We're doing what we talked about earlier that I've seen plenty of fighters make a mistake on, where they get driven to a corner, driven to a corner, driven to a corner, and that is the beginning of someone's destruction. And also as well, if they end up in a situation where the tables have turned and they are now all the way just they have you in the corner. Let's say they spun you around, so now your butt's sitting in the corner, and now they're in front of you, but they're using it as a way to get away. They're exiting. Same thing, you jab them all the way across that entire ring, and eventually, with the multi-jabs, like I talked about, maybe 5, 6 jabs, you're going to drive them probably slamming into another rope, and you can pick up just about where you left off. All right, now let's review over these 3 concepts. The dominant position, right? Having that center high ground of the ring. This can be applied to if you're a longer boxer and you're just going to stay within that kind of circle that's about maybe 5 feet by 5 feet, where you're just going to stay there and jab and do little circles with inside that circle on the hill. Or if you're a more aggressive fighter, you have them outside of that area the entire time because you're cutting them down and maneuvering them into corners. Right now, let's talk about the geometry of quarters. Remember those concepts where we're going to, number 1, avoid them, right? But number 2, try to steer people to them. And if we get steered to them, we're going to make more space by even going into a little bit of the firing lane to then create more space to loop around from the corner, stay with circular movement and everything else. Such important concepts. And then last one is slicing and dicing, how we can literally cut down this ring into a skinny rectangle or a triangle and dominate the whole thing. And when it's done right, you'll feel the difference. Now remember, with all of these concepts, it's worth nothing if you don't review this video many times to just ingrain it in your brain, because it's amazing. A lot of stuff, you'll watch it one time, you're like, yeah, it makes sense. Then you watch it again, you pick up another thing. You watch it a third time, you pick up another thing. Make sure you go through, watch it a few times, and maybe give yourself some time between watching so you revisit, because you always can pick up new things. At least that's what I found when I consume any type of educational material. Then obviously don't just leave it in your mind. You actually got to embody it by training it, doing in the reps. And again, what are the reps? How you going to do the reps with this? You can do it with shadowboxing. Then you're going to implement with sparring. Make sometimes your focus of sparring to just use these strategies of the ring to experiment and to find out what's working, to see, okay, this is where I don't quite get this concept yet, and find a way to make it work. The good thing too, as well, is that not everything works the first time. So remember, when you take these concepts and you put them into training, they might not work the first time. Give them 9 tries. Give them 9 tries. If it doesn't work after 9 tries, then you can say, okay, maybe it's not something I want to put in my arsenal. But too often I will see a very effective and fundamental boxing concept be tried by somebody one time. Or let's say the classic example too, where it's like you tell someone to jab and they jab and it doesn't work that one time. Well, how about you try 9 more times? And now there's 9, you'll probably have successful jabs, at least a few of them. And then you're like, dang, okay, there we go. That's what it is. Oh, and that's what success feels like. Let me replicate that. And then, of course, implementing it into where it matters most, which is in competition, or if you don't compete, into your sparring. Again, where it matters most for you may vary. Now, of course, if you like this, make sure you click like, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed already, chances are you aren't subscribed. Comment below your thoughts, how you're going to utilize this. Also give me your feedback from your successes with it, as well as your challenges. And also, buy me a cup of coffee. Coach Keith lives off of coffee. And I have one of those genes where I was in my genetic profile where I can assimilate caffeine, I guess, really well. And so it gives me mellow energy. I don't get jittery. I can literally like chug that much coffee and be pretty cool, right? I'm not going to go to sleep, but I'm just like nice and smooth and alert, all right? And then the last thing is, according to the algorithm, check out one of these videos here because they're probably exactly what you need.